one of the guys who decides the suspensions and whatnot is John Runyon and Troy Vincent,
Right.
both former Eagles.
Bring on our friend who we love listening to from the Philadelphia Inquirer. It is Marcus Hayes. He joins us now here on the program. How you doing, brother?
Yeah, Howard doesn't like me because I wrote that he should be fired when he was assaulting women last year.
Okay, that ends that.
You put him in a bad spot. It would have been a tough explanation for Howard, if you know what I'm saying.
Oh my God. Oh, hey, you know what? I don't really like to do this very much, but do you
You know what
mind
I'm
if I
talking
move
about?
on?
You know what I'm talking about?
Yes,
Both at
yeah,
the Phillies and then his own coworker.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah. Hey, so do you mind if I transition?
Hey, I bring it up. You brought it up. You
No.
brought my name up. You brought my name up to a guy who doesn't like me. That's why he doesn't like me, because I said that he should be fired because he was assaulting women.
Hey, I got it, and I understand fully now. Thank you very much. All right, let's go over to this. All right, hang on. Okay, Jaylen Carter. How do you think the Eagles have handled him and handled this situation with him in the league?
They've actually handled him pretty well. Like I mean, he's a guy who has clauses in his contract for behavior. So they could recover bonuses. They could lower his salary, all sorts of stuff from what he's done. Um, I know it sounds bad when I tell you he was fined for fighting the Commanders twice last year in two separate games. That I believe he led all defensive linemen in unsportsmanlike or unnecessary roughness penalties last year. That said, they're delighted with him because they know it could be a lot worse. He's not a very good, very easy guy to control, and they're doing a pretty good job of it. You know, Big Dom, that's one of his pet projects. That's one of his guys that he has to look out for. And there's, in Dom's defense, there's only so much you can do, right? So that said, um, they've handled him in general very well. They lobbied for this ridiculous ruling that I think what's going to happen is he will be considered suspended because he didn't play the rest of that game, because in the future, if they want to suspend somebody, now Jaylen doesn't make very much money. He only makes about $60,000 a game.
Right.
But if you get a guy who's making, 25 million a year, his agent is going to say you can't charge him, you can't cost him more than $60,000 because now you have precedent. But the league can say, well, we effectively suspended this guy, or we officially suspended this guy, so he pays 60, but your guy pays 160. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I think it's a legalese thing, but I understand the Eagles have to, I guess, advocate for their guy to play to win as many games, especially with a big game coming up Sunday afternoon in Kansas City. That said, he wasn't suspended for a game because the game had already begun. The comparisons, these are the two comparisons to make. Okay, if Zach Wheeler, the Phillies' best pitcher, hits the first batter of the game and is ejected, he is not suspended for that game. He's ejected from that game. Okay, even though he didn't play but one pitch, and that pitch was an irrelevant pitch, an insignificant pitch. So he gets suspended for 6 games to make sure that one of his starts is taken away, which gives the next opponent an advantage, which is the point of being suspended. You're not just suspending the player, you're injuring the franchise. All right. Point two, at the end of the first half, Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter's friend and teammate, spits on Patrick Mahomes. His agent, if the league wants to suspend him, his agent can say, okay, but you can only suspend him for the first half because he missed the second half. This is ludicrous. This is
Yeah.
stupid. Anybody who says that he should get time served is being a willful idiot or duplicitous. He wasn't suspended. If you're just going to find the guy, just find the guy. but don't try to save the suspension language for later if it happens again.
So do you think this is more of jockeying for the upcoming contract in March, that they're going to try to use this against Drew Rosenhaus? Follow me here with this, though, because like you said, so why did the league go around the bend here on this thing when
Because they have
it's
they have
not
a, they
really
have
a
a
suspension?
they have a featured game at 4 o'clock on Sunday with a Super Bowl rematch, and they don't want this to taint that game.
Okay,
And
so this is
the
all
guy
about
who
Sunday.
decides is the guy who decides the one of the guys who decides the suspensions and whatnot is John Runyon and Troy Vincent,
Right.
both former Eagles.
Okay, fair enough here. Well, then let me go here with Nick. So I don't know if you were at that press conference asking questions to him about, after Jaylen Carter was dealt with by the Eagles and by the league, and the suspension came down. Here's my problem. You tell me if I'm off base. I said the Eagles make such a pitch to tell us about their culture and how great their freaking culture is. We got guys buying in. We got guys loving this. And the first time that culture is questioned, and the Philadelphia media doing their job by going, hey, Nick, what do you think of what happened? Do you think he learned his lesson? Nobody asked him what you told him. Nobody asked him what you said. How do you think he's handled the situation? I don't think that was an over-the-top question about telling me guarded Russian secrets behind the curtain here and telling me anything wild. I mean, why did they not want to at least – don't you want to defend your culture? I mean, you're giving me BS and you're hiding behind, well, we keep that in-house. You tell me all the time, Marcus, how great their culture is. And when you have a chance to defend it, you don't. That's how I read that.
I'm not don't get me wrong. I don't think much of the way that they have handled this in front of everybody, period. I think it's been relatively cowardly, and they are worried about upsetting Jaylen Carter and Drew Rosenhaus and having him go somewhere, play out his contract and go somewhere else. A and B, Nick has never handled this stuff well. He's just not good at it. Like, Nick is a very good he's really good off the record. He's a football nerd. He's good with the X's and O's, but Doug Peterson wasn't good at this either. Neither is Andy.
Yeah.
They don't supply context, and they don't give you anything to work with to let you know whether they really disapprove of it or whatever. And I think that's kind of what you want and kind of what we want too a little bit. But I think they believe that their culture is such that guys like Darius Slay and CJ Gardner-Johnson and Jaylen Carter intermittently, sort of guys with reputations of being difficult to deal with, being wild cards, something like that. They think that their culture does a good job of keeping them keeping their antics diminished. They believe that. The other thing is, if you're Nick Sirianni, you have a very difficult task in telling Jaylen Carter he has to control himself when the team that you play the next week, the last time you were there, you taunted their fans on tape in the tunnel. I mean, when the head coach acts out, when he acts like a fool, how are the players supposed to not act like a fool? How is he supposed to be able to tell the players they can't act like a fool? How Big Dom gets thrown out of a game for touching a player on the sideline? I mean, it's not a bad culture. It's not like a renegade culture. It's not out of control. But people in that culture, they do the wrong thing all the time. All the time. It's who they are. And it's endorsed by the coach and tolerated by the owner.
Absolutely. Great stuff here. I mean, let's go to the game here a little bit. Then we'll go to the game on Sunday here, Marcus. You tell me what the problem was in the game. Now, look, I call September the liars month in the NFL. You really don't know what
like
it is,
that.
right? It's the liars month because look at a year ago. Remember when New Orleans came out and they were undefeated? Everyone's going, they're putting 40 up. You're going, whoa. And then the Eagles are 2-2. You're screaming for Sirianni's job. Everyone's like, and then both teams went polar opposites. And you're like, September is a liar's month. So I'm really only talking about things to keep an eye on here. So in the first game, A.J. Brown gets 1 target, and you got over here Devontae Smith getting 3. So you're telling me, and the running back was held under 70 yards. So I'm looking at this. I'm either going, Hurts couldn't find him. Matt Eberflus did a good job in defending the pass game, or Kevin Patullo, being a first-time play caller, struggled at getting the passing game going, and it took Hurts to figure it out to go, well, they covered them. Let me go to Jahan Dotson. Let me go to Goddard. Let me use my wheels. Jaylen, I thought, figured it out, the Rubik's Cube, and how to win that ball game. He doesn't play that way. They don't win. But to me, I was like, is it Patullo? Is it Hurts? Or is it the receivers? Because AJ came out and said, yeah, they zoned me up. You can't beat zone defense. You're A.J. Brown. I mean, they're off the ball on you. So what did you take away from that?
Well, the Eagles scored on their first 4 possessions. On, I think, their third possession, Landon Dickerson got injured, their left guard. Arguably their best offensive lineman, if Lane Johnson isn't. And then he left the game in the second half. They were a different team after that. Their offensive line is the reason they've gone to 3 Super Bowls and won 2 of them. Full stop. It's the best unit every year, and it's an elite unit every year. They're elite. So when you take away Landon Dickerson, you put yourself in a couple of issues, right? You don't want to put yourself in a situation where you're going to get beat through the Landon Dickerson position. So maybe you vanilla it up a little bit as long as you're winning. Number one. Number two, you are diminished there. All of a sudden, if you look at Saquon Barkley's runs last year, he ate on the left side. Dickerson and Jordan Mailata are the biggest reason Saquon Barkley had the run where he spun and jumped back. All of it happened on the left side. So, and Dickerson is arguably a better player than Mailata. I know Mailata graded out better in Pro Football Focus, but what Dickerson does, if you watch it on tape, it's just like, I can't believe this guy is doing this, right? So that addresses one of the issues. It may be Patullo, maybe Patullo didn't adjust to it as well as the game progressed without Landon Dickerson, but they scored on the first 4 drives. So it wasn't Kevin Patullo when Landon Dickerson was healthy. And the other side of the ball was diminished, I think, by the absence of Jaylen Carter. Once they figured out how to defend the Cowboys without the Jaylen Carter 50 plays in the scheme, they were fine. I actually talked to Jordan Davis about that. One of the great things about Jaylen Carter is he's not the most disciplined guy, but when you're that good, you don't need to be. Disciplined guys have things going on in their mind. Okay, this is my assignment. You were a defensive lineman, right?
Yeah.
Right. So this is my assignment. These are the 2 guys I have to occupy. This is the gap I have to fill, whatever. Well, Carter doesn't do that. Carter doesn't do that.
No, he plays like
He's a
Jerome.
game wrecker, and they let him go, right? Without the game wrecker, they have the guys in there saying, okay, I know I have to do this. But one of the things that Jordan Davis told me is, the Cowboys showed them things that they hadn't seen ever before from the Cowboys, which makes sense, right? New coaching staff.
Yep.
So those are the 2 issues. That's kind of why the Eagles defense got better as the game went on, and the Eagles offense got worse as the game went on. I would say Dickerson's probably the 4th best offensive player on a really great offensive unit, and Carter is by far the best defensive player and probably the 3rd best player on the entire team. So when you subtract those 2 guys, you get that. Now, Dickerson has been back at practice, and obviously Carter's going to play. So, the Kansas City Chiefs won't have it as easy as the Dallas Cowboys did for half of the game, with Dickerson out, and the whole game without Jaylen Carter.
As you know, the Eagles love to overcorrect. Do you think in this game on Sunday that it's going to be a priority to turn and just somehow get the ball in that dude's hand? I mean, they love to overcorrect. I mean, I don't know. Every time I see something like this happens and somebody kicks their heels up and feathers get ruffled, they overcorrect. Do you see that in this game on Sunday where it's a priority to get him the football? See, to me, that's not winning football. Winning football is Jalen Hurts deciding
Well,
what's winning football.
they only overcorrect when it's AJ, right?
Okay.
He's the
Yes,
only guy who's really complained. They only overcorrect when it's AJ.
that's right.
And I think they're beyond that. I really
Okay.
don't think they care what AJ thinks anymore. And I think AJ understands that. AJ, for the first time, was in a situation like he didn't get a target. I had already written the tweet and saved it in my draft that this was the first time he hadn't gotten a target in his career. Okay. So I had then like with what 3 minutes left or whatever, he got the ball, not only a target, but a catch, whatever. And after the game, everybody knew, we got to go to AJ and deal with this. You didn't get a target, you didn't get the ball. AJ was ready for it. And for the very first time, AJ said, it's no big deal. He's never said it's no big deal. So will they overcorrect? They may throw him the ball 15 times, but it won't be because AJ's upset. It'll be because he's open 15 times.
Okay. So how long before you think this thing comes? See, you know me. You know me, Marcus. I like to kind of like throw a little dust over here in the pot and spin it up a little bit. And here I'm saying you got 3 games. If this thing doesn't look good, IJ Brown, man. This guy wants to win his way. Barkley wants to win his way.
No, that's not true. That's not fair. Saquon Barkley does not care. Saquon Barkley had a chance to break the franchise a chance to set his personal record last year against the Giants and said, let the other guys eat. Yeah, I'm not sure you're getting that comment from AJ Brown if he's got 13 catches for 220 yards,
You're
So,
not.
and I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that. AJ's a typical receiver. He has a sign on his locker that says always open. 7-Eleven. Yes, I'm open. Okay. On his locker, in the locker room.
That's his Twitter handle.
Exactly. So my point is, I don't think it will matter if AJ gets upset. If you remember, like we didn't write a lot about it or talk a lot about it in the offseason. AJ admitted during the offseason on podcasts that he was upset and that he wanted the ball more, period. Full stop. And, after they went through the whole Brandon Graham said this, there's friction yet. He admitted there was friction. So I think they're past AJ. I think they're past caring about AJ. So to answer your question, 3 games, 4 games, it could be 20 games. AJ can say whatever he wants. Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni will ignore him.
So do you think he's wearing his welcome out? And is the
Oh,
welcome
no.
out?
You just got to deal with it. Like if we were going to trade a guy every time he complained about not getting enough catches, no receiver would no premier receiver would last more than 2 weeks on a given team. You'd have 7 trades before the deadline. That's what they do. That's who they are.
Do you believe they have something that they can do this weekend? They could go into Kansas City, and I got to tell you, Marcus, if you look, I got to think the Cowboys have more skilled people in this game outside of the quarterback, obviously, and Creed Humphrey and Smith and the O-line. There's still good players there, but they didn't really upgrade anywhere.
No.
Hollywood Brown. I get, and people go, well, Rashid Rice is out. I'm like, that guy's not Jerry Rice. We're not talking Jerry Rice here. Brett Veach and Andy. Does this kind of look like Andy at the end of Philly?
Well, no, not at all. Andy at the end of Philly, Andy did not know how to cope without a quarterback who could save him. And I know he's got a quarterback now who can save him.
Yes.
But he's become a more complete coach. He delegates a lot more, and he's less involved with player personnel decisions. Andy's the guy who drafted Danny Watkins, the fireman. If you remember the guy in the first round who wanted to be a fireman, who is now a fireman, by the way, offensive lineman. So, he drafted Freddie Mitchell. Andy is not Fred X, right? Freddie Mitchell was supposed to be a Hall of Fame talent, and he's in the Freddie Mitchell Hall of Fame. But yeah, it's a different animal now. They just managed their cap and their drafts poorly, and that was their brilliance before. That's the thing that really saved them. They got a lot of contributions from a lot of guys who were either underpaid or played over their skis a little bit. But that Patrick Mahomes contract, which looked horrible before, doesn't look bad now. That's a big number. So you see it all through the league. It's one of the reasons the Bengals can't win. It's one of the reasons the Bills can't win. You know, and Howie Roseman is a better general manager than all of those general managers, and he's gotten really good at the draft. His center and left guard were both project guys who are Pro Bowl level guys now, and those are positions where other teams just haven't hit on. Jordan Mailata was a 7th-round pick. It's just you go left tackle, left guard, and center. And I know your viewers probably don't care about offensive line talk, but you and I know the best offensive lines are the ones those are the ones that are playing late into January. Right. Those 3 guys cost minimal draft capital, minimal. And Lane Johnson was a 1st-round pick in 2013. They aren't starting a 1st-round draft pick on. They haven't started a 1st-round draft pick on their offensive line that they drafted since they drafted Lane Johnson, if I'm not mistaken.
Wow.
Because Andre Dillard didn't pan out because Jordan Mailata was so much better. But think about that. The most important unit on your team. Now, quarterback's the most important position. Most important unit on your team. You spent minimal draft capital. I think Tyler Steen, the starting right guard, is a 3rd-round pick, maybe.
Third.
Yeah. So you got a 7th, a 2nd, a 2nd, a 3rd, and a guy who's in his 12th, 13th year.
Yeah.
So that's brilliant. You've got a starting tight end. I think Dallas Goedert was a 2nd-round pick. He's got a knee injury; he might not play.
Yep.
But the backup tight end, I think, was undrafted.
Yep.
I mean, Saquon Barkley, even with his new contract, is underpaid.
Right.
So, they've got all this talent, and both the wide receivers are vastly underpaid compared to what the wide receiver. Howie did a great job of locking those guys up below at market value at the time, but market value is probably 25% more than it was when Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown agreed to their extensions.
Final question for you. What do you think happens on Sunday?
Oh, the Eagles should walk over these guys. I mean, my biggest issue with the Eagles, my biggest concern, if I had one, was that the 11 starters did not even practice together once in training camp, mainly because A.J. Brown had a hamstring injury. But he looked fine. That's the other thing. Maybe A.J. Brown wasn't A.J. Brown last week, and maybe he won't be until September. So maybe he wasn't getting open. Maybe his job was to attract coverage to decoy everybody else. Because maybe he gets that ball and he's not A.J. Brown yards after the catch A.J. Brown. But they looked great. They looked very sharp. They looked cohesive. There weren't the usual game 1, game 2 misalignments, guys not going where they're supposed to go. I think I saw it once. There was I think AJ was in either the wrong spot or somebody was in his spot and he ad-libbed and it the play clock almost went down and they had to call timeout or something like that. But for a team that didn't practice once during training camp, that's spectacular. So the offense should be very, very proficient. The Chiefs' defense is kind of garbage, right? And they've solved Patrick Mahomes if Jaylen Carter and Zach Bond are in the game. So yeah, it should be. Jalen Hurts might not need to play the 4th quarter.
Hey, I learned one lesson about you today. If you want to ask a question, be prepared what the answer coming back is. Which is why you are spectacular and a must-read in Philadelphia. Folks, please do me a favor and make sure you check out our friend Marcus Hayes' content over at the Philadelphia Inquirer. Man, you know what? We got to do a show one time together. I don't know how we do that, but we got to do a show together one time because I think we'd have a lot of fun. I mean it. I think we would. I've never, ever said that and had a partner. I had a partner once, Rod Brooks, in San Francisco. We called it Ebony and Ivory. It was way before its time.
Which one were you?
Because I'm Italian, I was Ebony. Marcus, thank you for doing this, my friend. I appreciate you.
All right, Dan, take care.